somewhere in Honolulu, Hawaii. I'm Shumai Shirashima, and this is Doom Business. Friends.
Hello? Hi.
This is also our good friend here, Christian. He's back again.
Yeah, it's a good thing I could make it again to the show. What's
Thank you
going
for being
on
here.
with you?
Well, for me, I actually did. If you recall from the last show, I had trouble with my place. It flooded.
We were in a tent. I remember that.
I had to get a new place. So right after that recording we did, I did find a place. It was a friend of mine. He's a farmer. So I stayed on his farm. I was living in his chicken coop with the chickens. But I had a TV and a little cooking stove and everything. All the eggs I could eat. And as we all know, I'm a fan of eggs. But I don't like the yellow part. I only like the white part. That was all fine and dandy. But then there was a big storm. And everything blew away. I had to find another place. So I was on Craigslist.
Yes?
And I found a place in Pearl City. 300 something a month, which is good for my own room.
Your own room?
This is really good too because usually a studio in Hawaii can run you up over $1,000 easy.
It's expensive living here on the island.
It is. I don't think people understand.
Well, that's good for you.
So I have a place now. I still don't want to record there. I like recording here, which I will not say where we are.
Oh, we're
I want to
at
keep
an
it
undisclosed
I want to keep it
location
mysterious because I don't want to be tracked or anything like that. So, the subject of today is something I'm very dear, I hold very dear, and that's wrestling.
We talked about this at the end of the last show, but then I thought there's a topic an obvious topic for us, which is paranormal pro wrestlers.
We want to keep it
because we didn't talk about the paranormal side of pro wrestling before.
It's relevant to the show, so this would make more sense. It's more interesting.
That's right.
Because I know you'll be talking about. If I were to guess, I'm just gonna guess.
Okay, guess at what?
Who are you gonna talk about?
I've prepared a list of the top 6 or 7 paranormal subjects in pro wrestling.
Okay, so tell me. I'm just gonna list.
I'm gonna hide my notes from you so you can't read them.
I'm gonna list paranormal characters and events, possible events.
Yes.
And tell me if I'm right or wrong. Or tell me if I'm wrong. Okay.
If they're among the ones that I've listed. Yeah.
Undertaker. Old
Sure,
Undertaker,
yeah,
not
he's in
Taker, not the biker. Undertaker.
Undertaker will be mentioned.
Okay.
Sure.
Kane.
Well, of course.
His brother.
Can't talk about one without the other.
Yes.
Obviously.
But Kane is interesting because he's always stayed paranormal. He never backed down.
Yeah, let's save that for when we get to that.
And he was in a horror movie anyway where he ate eyes.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
And he's what is his name? He's a vampire dude. Who's
I have this. I think I know who you're. I have this guy on my list.
I don't remember.
Yeah. Why don't we start then? We'll start with that one because this is early on.
Okay. So who is that guy? What is that?
Okay. This was a guy named Gangrel. And he was around. He was in the WWF at the time. It was called F before. Now it's called E. Probably in the late '90s, early 2000s, right?
I remember him.
He was a wrestler named Gangrel who was supposedly a vampire. Now, he didn't look too much like a vampire. Like, he was sort of like, imagine like a big beefy dude with like a blonde mullet.
Well, he kind of reminded me of Barry Lyndon in a way, and how they would look.
Yeah, like a really red color, a reddish skinned, big tanned, giant white guy. But anyway, he comes up.
I mean, that's a vampire.
He comes up out of his entrance. One of the most visually impressive entrances in pro wrestling, probably. They had an elevator built into the stage.
Just for him?
They may have used it for other things too, but he rose up out of the ground from below the stage, slowly through a ring of fire.
Wow.
While holding a goblet.
It was
that was full of blood.
Yeah, I remember that.
And like nodding his head like this, like he's really happy. And of course,
YouTube his intro if you're on
just look
the
for
internet right now.
Gangrel entrance or whatever. Now, and of course, Edge and Christian were his minions.
Oh, really?
At one time when they first appeared.
I didn't know that.
And that's why they were, that's why they were kind of vampire-like in terms of the way they looked.
Especially Edge has that face.
Yeah. So they rode up with him sometimes in the Ring of Fire.
I don't think I ever saw that.
Well,
I don't recall seeing that.
They were called the Brood. That was his
That sounds
group,
familiar. Yeah.
Now, Gangrel itself is the name of a clan from Vampire the Masquerade, which is a role-playing game.
It must be a pretty famous role-playing game.
It was popular at the time, yeah. And there were different clans of vampires in that role-playing game, and the Gangrel were one of them. And some people say that the WWF at the time, as they were called, paid a lot of money to license the name from White Wolf, who were the publishers of the role-playing game that was very popular at that time in the late 90s. So I don't know if that's true, if they actually paid them to license it.
Wow, there's a lot of faith behind this character for them to do that.
And of course, but this guy was nothing, by the way, like the Gangrel clan or whatever in Vampire the Masquerade.
It was just his name.
Yeah, in Vampire the Masquerade, I know from my research, although I don't have first-hand knowledge of this, the Gangrel clan were considered like a cool vampire clan because they were sort of like Wolverine. They were like weird kind of
just angry,
feral, violent guys who like hid in the forest or whatever.
Right.
Which is not like what Gangrel the wrestler was like, really.
Because when I think of Gangrel, I don't even think of wrestling. I don't even recall him wrestling. I just remember the intro.
It probably wasn't memorable, whatever he did in the ring.
Did he throw the goblet of blood like onto someone's face at least? Or
yeah, he would do that sometimes.
On their back and let it run down.
Yeah, just to distract them or whatever.
Well, who's next?
There were other... This barely bears mentioning, but there was the ECW Zombie. So this was...
Interesting.
In the mid-2000s, about 2006 or so, WWE resurrected ECW, right? So ECW was its own promotion, and they bought them out a while back. And then in 2006, they decided to bring back the promotion under its own name as a sort of a B-level show for them. And it was on the Sci-Fi Channel. Now, this is the first time that a regular pro wrestling show was on the Sci-Fi Channel, right? And the only reason they were on there is because they cut a deal with the network, and they were all part of the same family of NBC Universal TV stations. But the thing is, Sci-Fi Channel told them, ECW, if you're going to be on our station, you need to have some kind of sci-fi or fantasy element.
That does make sense, yeah.
Right. And so on the first episode of the show that premiered, you had guys like classic ECW guys like Tommy Dreamer and the Sandman showed up. Yeah.
Sandman?
Yeah, he was still around at
He's
the
like
time.
Now, for those who don't know, the Sandman is what Stone Cold is based off of, no?
Yeah, I think some parts of his gimmick were inspired by Sandman. Sandman is just like an angry-looking dude who walks out drinking beer.
Oh, yeah.
And he smashes the beer can on his forehead, and he gets amped up. Usually,
really amped up.
He's usually carrying a Singapore cane, which is a kendo stick, like a bamboo sword thing from one of those things. And he'll usually hit himself over the head with it, because he's really angry. Okay, so here's the thing. First episode, right?
Right.
To fulfill their obligation to the Sci-Fi Channel of sci-finess, they said, okay, let's have a science fiction character, right? So they had the Zombie come out. And this was a guy, some unknown wrestler, who is kind of dressed up like a classic zombie, with his arms out, like staggering around.
What the hell? Okay.
Comes to the ring, and of course Sandman's music hits. Not the song Enter Sandman, because they couldn't afford that, but just some generic music, and Sandman comes out and just hits him over the head a couple times. So they weren't really trying that hard, I guess, to...
Wait, so was the zombie guy meant to be a wrestler, or just a zombie?
He was kind of a wrestler, but it was more like just a joke, I think.
I get it, yeah.
And I believe after that, they tried again a couple times with, like, The Mummy or something.
Isn't that the same thing?
Yeah. No. So that hardly bears mentioning. Let's move on to another topic, though, shall we? Another paranormal wrestler, Papa Shango.
Oh, Papa Shango. He was my favorite
Yeah,
as a kid
WWF.
because he made people vomit.
Now, he is a guy,
No,
Yes.
no, correct me if I'm wrong here, but isn't Papa Shango also the creator of the Ho Train?
Yes, he
Is that true? That is true.
That's right. Papa Shango was a guy named Charles Wright. I have him here in my notes.
Oh, good.
And he first had this gimmick of being Papa Shango, who is a voodoo dude. And he sort of showed up in some storylines and then kind of mysteriously vanished, like they gave up on him or whatever.
He was actually pretty scary, like how they had him.
Yeah, he had magic spells that could, control people, right? Mm-hmm. They gave up on that. Later on, he came back under a new name as Kama the Supreme Fighting Machine.
Oh, he was Kama?
Yeah.
Really? That doesn't look like him at all.
He joined the Nation of Domination, of course. And then, yes, eventually he became the Godfather. And then he became the Good Father.
Oh.
You remember that?
Just add another
And then he
O.
became the Godfather again.
I know that actually the real person actually did, I don't know if it was in Vegas or wherever, but he did own like a strip club.
Yeah, he still does, actually.
Oh, so it's real.
that
Okay.
Maybe the Godfather gimmick was based on that. The fact that he actually does
his own side business.
Yeah. Now, there's not too much. I don't know what more there is to say though about Papa Shango. He didn't do that much actually in storylines.
He was my favorite next to the $1 Million Man.
Yeah,
Those two are my favorite characters. Anything about the $1 Million Man?
I don't think he was really paranormal though, was he?
Not enough.
Not too much.
He was maybe just a little bit, but not enough.
Yeah.
Well, so what's next here?
I want to talk about something else, something real.
Okay.
This time for the next story. The next one is an actual ghost story, not a wrestling gimmick, but this is a story told by Rowdy Roddy Piper, and he's told this on the Celebrity Ghost Stories television show. So I'm assuming it's true. The man himself told this story. So here's how it goes. Piper was friends with Adrian Adonis, who was a guy who was he wrestled at WrestleMania 3, and just another wrestler.
Oh, okay.
Now, sadly, Adrian Adonis died in a car accident in 1988. Okay, but before he died, he was talking to Piper one day, and he was kind of saying, "Hey, Rowdy Piper, you should settle down or whatever, start a family, buy a house." And Adonis told him, and apparently, I guess, helped him to find or buy a certain house or something.
Oh, really? So he was serious about that house.
The house that Piper eventually moved into, and he started a family.
Now,
and he had kids.
I'm kind of crying right now. I'm tearing up a bit
Yes,
because, as we all know,
you don't have a house, so
my dream in life is to have my own house. I don't want a bunker anymore. I want to be above ground. I'm over the groundness.
Really,
I want to be above ground. But proceed.
well. After Adonis died in that accident, unfortunately, a few years later, Piper was, he was on the road. He headed home. He got to his house, and his young daughter ran out of the house just as he was arriving and ran out into the yard and yelled, "Help," or whatever, right? And he said, because she said she said she saw a man standing in her bedroom looking at her while she was sleeping.
Sounds terrible.
So Piper goes inside, and he sees he goes in the living room. He turns around and he sees Adrian Adonis standing there in the corner of the room, looking at him.
That's scary.
And then when he looks around again, he sees a log had fallen out of the fireplace in the living room. I assume somewhere in the house. A log had fallen out, and it was about to catch the house on fire.
Oh, okay.
So Piper stamped out the fire with his mighty boots, and Adrian Adonis's ghost disappeared. So Piper believes that the ghost came to warn him to save his house and his family from the fire, the house that he helped him to get in the first place, you see.
What would have happened if Adonis wasn't there?
Well, I mean, we'd have to assume that
The house would
the
burn
log
down,
that
probably.
fell to the fire might have caught the rest of the house on fire.
Right, because the kid was in her bedroom, and because she ran out, that prompted Rowdy to run in, and okay.
Although I guess Piper was already coming back home, so maybe he would have just gone in the front door anyway and see. But let's just assume that the ghost helped. You know,
It could have helped better by stopping the fire.
well, I think most ghosts can't do that, right? I think most ghosts, in fact, can't handle fire. Like they can't touch it, or it'll
They
kill
can't handle
them.
fire. You know, what Roddy Piper needed was the Ouija board.
Oh, is that the new sponsor
It is.
of the show?
Well,
Would you like to take a commercial break? Actually, right
actually,
now?
yes. Folks, stay tuned for more information on this fine product. Friends, we all have dead relatives, some of us more than others. Now, it's natural to want to speak with deceased loved ones for emotional comfort, or to learn where they hid their money and jewelry. But don't be a fool and use a Ouija board, because as we all know, the Ouija board has a long history of opening a gateway to demonic entities. And the next thing you know, you're waking up with the word hell scratched on your belly and blood dripping down your thighs. Now there's the Ouija board. W-E capital J-O-Y. Board. Rejoice! For now you are guaranteed to contact only benevolent spirits. There are no letters, so nothing scary can be spelt. The only words on it are yes, okay, and a pink heart, and a $sign, made from 100% Utah mahogany by retired Jesuit priests. There's no need to be afraid, friends. In the morning, visit viewscreenon.com/offer and order your Ouija board today.
Warning. Board may contact reptilian aliens, other aliens known as the Insertions, or a telepathic slumbering leviathan.
And we're back.
We're back.
Proceed with your list.
More
I'm
paranormal
very intrigued. See,
pro wrestling.
anything with wrestling, especially
Yes.
old school wrestling, old school meaning circa, I don't know, 1995 or 6 or so,
Yeah.
I'm always interested in. What's more on your list? I want to hear more.
I'm realizing that my list is very WWF centric.
Was there any other federations or organizations that have other stories?
Well, I mean, WCW did their fair of.
yeah. Well, they had the Shockmaster.
I don't know if he was supernatural though. He
He looked supernatural.
like I wonder if he could control electricity. We never know because he only appeared like once, right?
Now,
So
explain to the audience.
RoboCop appeared in WCW.
No, I know. I YouTubed that by accident. That was embarrassing. Oh, that's not cool. But if you want to see a funny thing, folks, friends, go on YouTube and type in Shockmaster WCW, and you'll see probably the funniest thing I've ever seen in wrestling.
Yes, I mean, it's a classic case of.
I think it was on purpose. I think it was a setup.
Do you think so?
It's too perfect. It's too funny.
I mean, apparently they spent a while hyping this new character before he appeared, and this is like the first time he appears, and that happens. What you see in the clip there.
Right?
So I don't know. Do you think that whole thing was just to be a joke?
I got to hear it again. I mean, I'm pretty good at picking up when something is fake. Mm-hmm. And the key giveaway for this would be the announcers. So I have to hear the announcers.
Like,
and
wasn't
kinda,
like Ric Flair laughing too? Was he? And
Oh, maybe it wasn't fake then. Because why would you? Ric Flair, by the way, is still going strong. Much love to Ric Flair. I think him and Hogan are on a cruise, not a cruise, but like a cross-country trek, going from town to town, just wrestling each other.
Okay.
What else is on your list?
Another topic here. Asian Mist. Asian Mist.
Asian Mist?
That's what it's called.
What does that mean?
This is
Now, that could mean many things, but this is a PG show, I think. Maybe a G show. So,
I think this is a G show.
What is Asian Mist?
That's the ability for certain Japanese wrestlers to spray venom out of their mouth.
Oh, no, I've seen this.
Now, yes. Now, here's a little background, all right? Apparently, the Great Kabuki was the first Japanese wrestler to come to America and really popularize this mist ability.
Well, it's very theatrical when you see it.
And later on, the Great Muta also in WCW did this. There sometimes are theatrics involved where the wrestler will take his fingers and jam them into his neck, or maybe make like a V shape with his fingers and stick it into his neck.
To make it look more,
underneath his jaw, as if he's activating a poison gland of some kind that's implanted in his throat.
His lymph nodes.
And then he will spray a colorful mist into the face of his enemy. Now, of course, you'll remember Yoshihiro Tajiri in WWF.
He's probably
did that a lot.
Of course, now half of the act relies upon the person getting sprayed and his violent reaction.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the way that it's actually done, this stunt, is that the wrestler will usually have like a little gel cap or something filled with food coloring that they'll secretly put into their mouth and chew it up and then do a spit take, right? And it has to be...
How do you do that, though? It sounds like there's a certain technique that you must practice over and over again.
I mean, it's hard to do a really good spit take, right? Where you get a good misting of spittle coming out that forms a nice cloud. I found a list online on Wikipedia. There was no source attached to this list. There's no citation for a reliable source on this. But this is a list of what the different colors of mist do, okay?
Okay.
Green mist, the most common kind, blinds you temporarily.
I can see the reaction of the wrestler getting hit with that.
And I think most of this list comes from things that Tajiri did, actually.
Okay.
Again, I don't know for sure. Red mist. So the red mist will burn, which is kind of like the green mist, but worse, I guess.
It affects not just your sight, but your whole face.
Yeah. Now the black mist.
This already sounds bad.
Makes you more blind. By which I mean, if you're hit by the black mist, you will be blinded like semi-permanently, like for maybe days or weeks.
Now, I can hear in my head, good old JR just screaming from the top of his lung, black mist, and work shed.
The blue mist will put you to sleep.
Oh, that's nice.
I don't know if I've ever seen anyone actually use that, but
that's
what this list on Wikipedia said.
That one sounds kind of boring.
And the yellow mist is paralysis.
That's scary.
Yeah.
That might be the scariest one.
It is.
Was that ever used?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't remember. The thing about the mist, though, is that if you use it, it's obvious that the referee would have to see it, would have to at least see the fact that your opponent's face is all green.
Right.
So you would either be disqualified, or maybe it's only in non-disqualification matches. I'm not sure.
Well, maybe only on the very end when he loses.
The ref has to just ignore it, kind of go, "Oh, I didn't see you spray the mist, even though this guy's face is green." But
has a ref ever been sprayed?
I'm sure that's happened at some point.
It probably was done after the match, after the good guy won. So as payback, you do the mist, and it doesn't matter at that point.
Yeah. Okay, next story.
Yes?
This is a recent story. It's not actually even done yet. I described this to you briefly before.
Oh, is this the...
Yeah, it's time travel.
Oh, this one's going to be... Okay, folks.
So,
pay attention. This is all... Okay, pay attention.
There's this East Coast independent promotion called Chikara. And,
not to be confused with Linkara.
No.
Chinkara.
I guess.
Is that Japanese?
I think it's Japanese for strength, maybe?
All good.
Or
Good.
power. So they're not small. They're one of the larger independent promotions. Of course, that means they're much smaller than the big promotions, right?
Right.
They've been around for about 10 years now, and what they're known for doing is they're known for comedy, like doing sort of weird...
You know what? I think my friend showed me a clip from one of their matches, and it was super funny.
Yeah.
That must have been it.
It was
especially
if it included guys wearing like luchador masks and other kinds of strange costumes, it's probably them.
Mm-hmm.
So, recently, just this past year, they've done this strange storyline that involved a guy named Archibald Peck. So Archibald Peck was a wrestler who was a drum major, like in a marching band. That's his gimmick, right?
Okay, that's good.
Like he wears a giant weird hat.
Oh, right. And he marches in with his knees up high.
Right. He was part of a group called The Band.
Of course.
A band. Oh, what was that?
We're gonna text message, but proceed with your story.
Is that the Whale?
No, it's not the whale. It's Rommel.
Oh, close enough.
But keep telling your story with the
Yes.
audience.
So, where was I? So he was a wrestler. Seemed like a pretty normal guy, one would think. Later on, he changed his gimmick to be a mixed martial arts guy. You know, like with trunks or whatever, mixed martial arts guy. Mm-hmm. This is important because at some point he got into a feud and he competed in a loser leaves town match. And that is whoever loses this match has to leave town, leave the promotion, and go away, right?
So it's like in Judge Dredd, where you get banished to the Deathlands, and you can't come back.
Exactly.
Okay.
Can't come back. So he was in the middle of this match with his career on the line. This is very confusing, so I'm trying to get this right now.
Okay.
I think he gets a pile driver or something on the outside of the ring, and he crawls away to the back. Okay? And he's missing for a minute. He crawls to the back, and then after a minute or two, he comes back out dressed as his old...
Marching band?
Now let me check these stats here.
Oh, there's like a graph and everything. You really came prepared.
This is very confusing.
You have like 5 different graphs, all with numbers on them and dates.
Yes, he's dressed in his old outfit. Okay?
This is the marching band.
And he proceeds to go back into the match and lose it, and then he has to leave the promotion forever.
So he loses it and he's gone. He is gone now.
Yes.
In your story
right
now, he's gone. Okay. But he's dressed as the marching band.
That's correct, yes. Now...
Okay. So for some reason, as a viewer, you're watching this and you think, he just crawled away, but now he's back again, but he's dressed differently. Strange.
It's unusual.
But, okay. And he loses and now he's gone.
That's right.
Okay, good.
A few months later, a mysterious stranger appears. A guy with his face concealed, dressed kind of like a cowboy. Mysterious and Handsome Stranger is what the character was called. Oh. And he started reappearing, and nobody knew who he was, although you could probably guess, right?
At this point, yes.
Especially the way I'm telling the story, of course, makes it obvious.
It's about the how that I want to know about.
He is unmasked, and yes, it is Archibald Peck again, same guy. So of course, the commissioner tells him, get out of here.
Right,
because
he's
you
kicked out.
lost the match. But, and this is a very big but, he says... His attorney, actually, explains this in a video you can watch online. Archibald Peck, this guy, should still be allowed to be part of Chikara because one of the other wrestlers in Chikara, named Eddie Kingston, has a finishing move called Back Fist to the Future. Now, this is just a finishing move for most people, but apparently sometimes when you get hit by it, or sometimes when Archibald Peck gets hit by it only, it causes him to travel through time. When Peck crawled backstage, he got into an altercation with Eddie Kingston,
This is the back fist guy.
Yes.
Okay.
And he was hit by Backfist of the Future and was transported back in time to 1885.
Oh, cowboy time.
He says, now none of this is shown in the actual wrestling, right?
Right.
But this has been said, yes, 1885, where he lived for a while as a cowboy until someone named Buford Tannen,
What?
hit him
Tannen?
with another Backfist of the Future that sent him back to the present day.
Oh, wait, so what was the first guy's name again? The fist guy?
That was Eddie Kingston.
But this is a Tannen
Yes.
who had the same power.
Apparently, yes. He also could do it. Now, what happened then was he became the mysterious stranger.
He was shot into the future.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's why he was dressed like a cowboy. Now,
Oh, I get it. Okay, it's
since
coming back.
he had never lost that match, then he's fine. The only thing is that someday later on, he will get hit by Backfist of the Future again, and then he will be transported back in time to the middle of that retirement match,
Okay,
where he will re-enter it
You
and
lost
then have
me.
to lose it.
You lost me here.
Yes,
Okay, wait.
yes.
As a cowboy, he was hit back into the future.
Yes. He
And that's-
returned to 2012 or whatever when this happened.
And because of that, he's not disqualified from wrestling. Because
because
span
he's not the one who lost, right? He only went through the first half of that match, and then he disappeared into the past.
Because what happened was that he crawled away.
Yes, he crawled away.
Okay, so that wasn't him. But so who's the guy who came in dressed as a marching band dude?
Well, all we know is that at some point in the future, Peck will get hit by the Backfist of the Future again, and then he will travel back in time to finish that match.
And that is the marching band guy.
Yes, and it appears that that actually did happen, because a few months later, at a later wrestling event, Archibald Peck was challenging Eddie Kingston for the championship title. In the middle of the match, something happened up in the rafters, or up in the balcony above them. They looked up and they saw another Archibald Peck standing there watching them from a distance.
What was he dressed as?
I'm not sure. I only read about this. I didn't see this on
Okay.
video.
So the guy in the ring right now, the Peck guy,
Yes.
he's dressed as the marching band guy.
Yeah, I
Okay.
believe he went back to that outfit.
So that does make sense. So now he's okay. I get it.
So while he was distracted by his own other self, who presumably was the one who lost the retirement match and then disappeared,
Oh, the original him?
well, the future him, while Peck was distracted, he got hit by Backfist of the Future, and then the lights went out in the arena, and when they came back on again, he was gone.
Who was gone?
Peck was gone.
Which one?
Actually, both of them probably were gone, I believe. The one in the ring was gone. So Eddie Kingston was standing there
Wait.
alone.
So actually, what we're talking about then, like this match is from the past. Now, is this just a loop that just doesn't end? Is that...
Well, what's happened apparently is that now only future Peck is still in our timeline.
Now, which
Right.
one is that? That's the cowboy.
Right. He's the
One.
one who, well, no. He's the one who went through everything, right? He was normal. He was a cowboy. He came back to the present. He was the mysterious stranger. He was unmasked.
Yes.
He fought in the championship match, was sent back in time to earlier in the year,
So who's left?
lost the retirement match, and then spent time wandering around the country not knowing what to do anymore because he was forced to retire. Then for some reason got into that event to distract his own past self.
Okay, wait, go back a bit.
Yes.
The part where he's wandering around the earth, like Kane from Kung Fu.
Yes.
Okay, now what happened before... What happened to him before that? Before he started wandering around?
He lost the Loser Leaves Town match.
Okay, that is the guy... That's not the guy who crawled away. That's the guy who just came in dressed as the marching band guy.
Yes.
That's the guy.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, I get it. Okay. So he's wandering the earth because he lost. Right?
Correct.
He has to leave. So then what happens with him after that?
Well, we assume that he was the one who appeared in the balcony.
Oh, yes, that makes sense.
After that, don't know what happened. He's gone now. But recently, Chikara, as a promotion, has said that they're shutting down their entire company because they're being bought out by a corporation called the Titor Conglomerate.
No, John Titor?
Yes. Now, you may recall our friend who was sadly eaten by a Bigfoot, we assume.
Well, I assume he was eaten.
Chrononaut X talked about John Titor before, and he was a famous time traveler.
I should mention an update to our friends here.
Yes.
All we know is that in his house, the authorities say, or the news lady on TV said, that they only found his shoes still standing, with the socks in place, and a weird putrid smell.
It's terrifying.
If you hear us, if you're out there somewhere, we miss you, please come back to us. Well, he might not even hear that, but it's the spirit that counts. But you were saying...
He probably stopped listening sometime during this whole time travel story.
He's probably in the woods somewhere. I'm sure we'll hear from him again.
So right now, as we're recording this, Chikara, the promotion, claims that they've been shut down after being taken over by the Titor Conglomerate.
Now, who are they?
But only those who are in the know, like us, recognize that name. So perhaps it has something to do with the same time travel story that I've just been telling you.
No, if the folks at home don't know, Titor was a time traveler, no?
Yes. He was a man, well, we assume, a man who made several postings on the internet back in, what was it, 2000, 1999, 2000?
Around there, yeah.
Claiming to be a time traveler. And he posted in several places on the internet, forums and so on, talking about his time travel adventures and how he was sent from the year 2036 back in time to 1975 in order to get a computer of some kind.
All right.
I remember this.
I remember that.
And he made a stopover after 1975. He made a stopover in 1999, I suppose, or 2000, when he made these messages. And then he vanished as mysteriously as he appeared.
See, the problem with all these time travel things is that they make predictions. That's the big thing. But what they don't tell you is that quantum physics tells us, science tells us, that there are many parallel universes, and one or the other might happen.
Yes. Now, obviously, in the world of pro wrestling, it appears that they believe in the one universe theory of time travel.
Now, is this the Dragon Ball Z theory as well?
No, Dragon Ball Z is the parallel universe.
So they dig the quantum physics version of it. That's cool.
Yeah, wherein traveling back in time takes you to another universe that is similar to your own, but
you can also travel
where the
forward.
Events branched off and do not affect your own present or your own history. So you can't erase yourself from history, for example, in the parallel universes theory.
Right.
I guess we'll move on to the final big paranormal wrestler.
All right.
You know,
this is the Kane.
About.
This is the Kane one.
Talking about Kane and the Undertaker. We'll group them together as one.
Okay, I will tell you what I know.
Yes.
And then you tell us what you know with your details there.
Yes.
I know that they're brothers. I know that... I remember the first time seeing Kane, and he was actually dressed like Undertaker.
I think so, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except they were dressed the same, except on the hat, there's like a little cloth thingy. One was, I think, blue and one was red to distinguish between one or the other. But then, for some reason, Kane changed his look drastically. And now I think he still wears the red spandex or tights.
Sure, yeah.
But his mask is off now, though.
Well, he took it off for a while, then he put it back on again.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the mask came back.
He looked more scary without the mask, really.
So the story is... first of all, let me explain. Undertaker is a long-time wrestler. He's been around for over 20 years. Well-respected.
Really well respected. And really popular.
He is how should I describe what his gimmick is?
Badass? Wait, which one are you talking about?
Well, they did change over the years, right? He's somehow supernatural. He's either an actual undertaker, meaning the guy who works at the funeral home, or he's some kind of undead guy who's immortal or something.
Who rides a motorcycle.
Well, he was also, he also had the American badass phase where he was a biker.
That must have been actually maybe his most... See, you can actually see how society changes with The Undertaker changing his look. Maybe he felt he was getting too goofy and felt he had to get real. So now he's back again? Now he's back as old school Taker?
Sure, as time passed, I think people had a lot of nostalgia for the older Undertaker, and they brought back his older looks. Now, let's talk about his powers, shall we?
I can tell you what I know.
Yes.
Whenever he wins a match, he brings his arms up, the lights go down, and then he slams his arms to his sides. He slaps them on his thighs. And then hellfire, or fireworks, pop up from the posts of the ring.
I mean, Kane, obviously, is known for controlling fire in particular.
So am I getting it mixed up? Was that
Well, Undertaker also can control, we believe, fire and definitely lightning. He has in the past used lightning to attack his enemies, or at least scare them away. Now, this is depicted by basically pyrotechnics in the building. Things will get dark, and then you'll see sort of possibly an arc of light or some kind of explosion with sparks coming out. A flash of light, maybe using the arena's lighting to simulate lightning.
Right.
So Taker can control that, and apparently, well, let's go into the book.
What book?
In 2005, WWE Books published a novel called Journey into Darkness.
Now, a novel? So it's fiction.
Yes, well, it's just as fictional as the rest of pro wrestling.
Okay, I got it. Okay.
Now, WWE Books has also published non-fiction
autobiographies, yes.
Such as Controversy Creates Cash by Eric Bischoff. But they published only 2 novels. Okay? This was one of them, Journey to Darkness. The other one was called Big Apple Takedown. Now, let me explain
that one.
Let me explain Big Apple Takedown to you, okay? This was a novel. Here's the story of it. The government recruited Mr. McMahon. An old government agent friend of his shows up, and he talks to Vince McMahon, and he says, Vince, we have a problem. We need to recruit some of your wrestlers to work for us.
This is getting good.
Because, you see, wrestlers are already traveling around the world, so it would be the perfect cover for them to also be government agents secretly. So they recruited John Cena, Triple H, Batista, Chavo Guerrero, for some reason, and Torrie Wilson within this book to take down a meth lab that was supporting terrorists. Okay?
Was this published like in 2001 or so?
It's about 2005, I think.
A meth lab?
That's right. So, yeah, seek out that book if you can find it. I didn't read it. I only read the summary, but it sounds pretty amazing.
Who wrote it?
No one? I mean, that I know of.
Maybe Vince wrote it? I want to read it. I want to read the style of... Like, what tone is it in?
It's a good question.
Hopefully it's in a very serious tone.
But now, that's not the main subject of our...
Oh, right. Okay, so what's the other book?
The other book is Journey into Darkness. I believe it's the story of Kane, but it also covers The Undertaker and their history.
No, this is...
Let me consult my notes here.
All right. Oh, I see. Yes.
According to this story, it all began when Paul Bearer...
God rest his soul.
That's right. Was an employee at a Death Valley funeral home. The funeral home was run by the parent, apparently, of Kane?
Yes.
Or...
Well, they're brothers.
Well,
so
they're half-brothers, I believe. I believe they had the same mother. No, they had the same... Wait, was Paul Bearer both their fathers, or... Anyway...
I thought Paul Bearer was just their boss.
Well, that's true, yes. He was an employee. The funeral home was owned by the parents of somebody.
One of them.
The funeral home burned down, Why'd that happen?
Oh, now, and so is that why he's scarred? Kane?
Well, yes, the story has always been... the story actually was that the Undertaker burned down their home, killing their parents, okay? And that Kane was also burned in the fire and would never forgive Undertaker because of that.
That makes sense.
Paul Bearer he was just the employee, but he was Kane's father? Apparently, Paul Bearer hid Kane in an insane asylum for his own good after the fire.
He's kind of like Mike Myers. Or wait, Michael Myers.
Sure, yeah. Both of them. According to this novel, according to this book, Kane has a condition called hereditary, sensory, and autonomic neuropathy.
What does that mean?
That basically means that Kane cannot feel pain. Now, if it's hereditary, we have to assume that the Undertaker also has it, which would explain their supernatural ability to absorb damage and recover from it.
I hope if I rewatch old matches, I don't see any of them wincing in pain, because that would kind of hurt the illusion of it.
Then, as Kane grew up, there was the Katie Vick incident, but we probably shouldn't talk about that.
I don't know what that is.
Later on, of course, Kane was unmasked. You see, it was always believed that Kane's face was scarred by fire, and that's why he had the mask on. But later on, when he was unmasked, his face looked pretty okay.
Well, his eye is always messed up.
And it was explained that Kane only believed that he was burned because of his psychological issues. Later on, Kane set JR on fire. That's also a classic moment.
I remember hearing about it, but I don't remember ever seeing it.
All these are on YouTube. You can look them up. Kane impregnated Lita at one point.
Lita?
Yeah. And then she had a miscarriage, and then Gene Snitsky punted a baby doll. This is very confusing.
Wait, what?
This is all on YouTube.
Wait, what's that story? Was it meant to be a real baby? It was meant to be?
No, it's just that Snitsky was trying to torment Lita about her miscarriage. So he carried a fake baby to the ring and then punted it into the audience, and then some guy caught it.
That was a great gimmick.
Yeah.
I don't remember watching that.
And finally in the history of Kane, he's still around today, actually.
Is he still looking the same?
More or less, yeah,
Wow, after all these years.
Finally, one of the more important things he did was he did star in the horror movie, the WWE Films-produced horror movie, See No Evil, where he was a guy who, I guess, liked to poke out people's eyes.
So he did do that. Yeah. I know very little about it. I just pretty much guessed the whole eye thing.
It was a horror movie where he was like the slasher, right?
Right, he was the bad guy.
He was the killer, and he attacked people's eyeballs. Now, according to my research, the movie was originally called I Scream Man. Spelled E-Y-E. And for some reason, they decided to change that title.
They should have kept it. I guess they thought it sounded a bit too goofy.
I think the problem with the title is that if you said it, people might just think you were talking about regular ice cream. Now, Kane is the one who controls fire. He can create fire out of nothing. He's a pyrokinetic.
So he's the fire one.
Unlike Undertaker.
He's electronic, pretty much.
I think he controls lightning. And of course, Undertaker had his urn. You may recall that Paul Bearer used to carry around the golden urn that contains the Undertaker's power.
But what does that mean, though?
We don't really know what it means.
Is it the ashes of his parents? That would be cool.
I don't think it was ever said what it was. Although sometimes when he lifted the lid off, there was like light coming out of it.
Well, like in Pulp Fiction? This must have been during Pulp Fiction time. Or the idea came from that.
I don't know if it was inspired by that, but
because
perhaps.
I know that the suitcase scene from Pulp Fiction was also inspired by Repo Man, apparently. I haven't seen that movie, but there's a scene, I think, where Emilio Estevez opens a trunk and there's like a light, and you never see what that is.
Oh, I see.
I think that's how it went. I'm not too sure. But that's the genius of Tarantino. He just takes ideas from other movies.
Yeah. Well, What else is there to say?
Any more supernatural? Was that the last thing?
That's the last thing.
No,
Yeah.
how did
Just want to talk about the powers?
How did the
of
ice
these
cream man do in terms of making money and reviews?
I'm going to assume the reviews were not very good. In terms of money, I'm not sure. I mean,
Do they even make money? Because they do have their own film company, and they make a lot of films.
So in the mid-2000s, WWE went into the movie business. And See No Evil was probably one of their first movies, along with, what was that one?
Oh, the John Cena's
the Marine,
one?
John Cena.
No.
Now, here's the thing. Very few of those movies ever made any money.
Right.
Now, some of them were actually released in theaters. Some weren't.
The Marine, I think, was in theaters.
Yeah. I think See No Evil was in theaters.
It was.
They're still making them, by the way. You know, the idea was that WWE. Here's the theory. If we want to get psychological, Vince McMahon, we've talked about him before, was born into this business. His father was a promoter, and he inherited the company from him. By all accounts, McMahon is a good businessman.
Oh, very good.
He's very competitive, obviously.
Very, very good. Probably one of the best. I mean, him and Donald Trump are friends, and they're similar.
Some people, they're very similar in many ways. Now, some people think that Mr. McMahon, deep inside, is ashamed of pro wrestling. That he doesn't really want to be a pro wrestling promoter.
I mean, he's really more of an entertainer.
That's
really,
right.
When you look at the wrestling.
And over the years, he has tried to move away from using the term wrestling.
Really?
He doesn't want to, right, like he always calls it sports entertainment, right? And instead of being called wrestlers, all the wrestlers in his company have to be called superstars or sports entertainers.
That's very wordy.
Or performers. And we think that he and the rest of the McMahon family are secretly ashamed of pro wrestling and would rather just be in the entertainment business in general. The only thing is, every time they tried to do something outside of wrestling, they always failed. Like like their football league.
The XFL?
Yeah, the XFL.
It was so bad that they actually gave out free ad space or free space for ads.
Yes.
For advertisers. But none of them would take the free space. I heard that.
They should have called us. We could have put a commercial on.
Well, this was a long time ago.
For free.
This was what, 2000 or early 2000s?
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
We were doing stuff back then, kind of.
No, right. Well,
so probably
they're
the idea
ashamed.
Is they wanted to start this film division so that hopefully they could start to become famous as entertainers for more than just wrestling.
Well, let's see. You have
Didn't work out too well so far.
What are their movies, or what genres have they tried? There's horror,
Yes. See No Evil was horror.
and then there's the Marine. I guess that's an action thing.
Right.
Now, the Marine. Now, was that like Battle Royale, or something, or the Running Man, where it was people trapped on an island or something?
I think you may be thinking of The Condemned, starring Steve Austin.
Yes, that's the other one too, isn't it? Another movie made by them.
I think that was theirs, right? Wasn't it?
Well, it has Steve Austin in it. You know what?
Well, Austin's been in other low-budget movies though recently.
The thing is, though,
he's like an action star now.
Oh, like Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
Used to be back in the early days.
Recently, WB has taken to the tactic of making movies where there's a wrestler in it, but they're not playing a major role. They're like just a very minor part.
Oh, like Triple H and Blade 3.
Right. Although that was not a WB film, but sure.
Right. It was so bad, it might as well have been.
Recently, they produced a movie called The Call, I think, starring Halle Berry as a...
Really?
Weird. As a... I think she was a 911 operator in the movie, and she had to save somebody from criminals and so on. And there were basically no wrestlers in the movie.
Oh, but so they are trying to go legit.
It was a pretty legitimate movie that was actually in theaters, and I think did pretty well, actually.
Now, that proves your theory. Well, it supports it.
I guess that's it for Paranormal Program. You know, there is one other story. It's kind of a sad story.
Oh.
Although we already talked about someone who died, right? But Owen Hart, you may recall,
you know, for some reason
died.
during this whole thing, I thought you would mention his name.
That's right.
But why are you mentioning his name?
In a tragic incident, Owen Hart was killed during a stunt in an arena at a WWE pay-per-view when he fell from the rafters of the arena. He was being put into a harness because he was going to be lowered down from the stage. A tragic incident. They went on and did the pay-per-view anyway, by the way, that night. When that happened.
Did they really?
Because nothing can stop the show in WWE, you know?
That's crazy. I did not know this.
Even when they probably should stop it.
I thought they stopped it.
But the paranormal thing is that arena. I wasn't prepared to talk about this because I don't have this in my notes, but the place where he died is a sports arena. And there have been reports, unconfirmed reports over the years, that employees at that arena have seen an apparition of him walking around in the rafters high above the arena.
That's creepy.
Area.
That's kind of scary.
Dressed in his wrestling gear.
I mean, like, this just brings back also just the question of, which we've covered before, the topic of ghosts.
Yes.
And why do they do that? Or why does that version of that ghost do that? Because, you know, when you take account parallel universes, as a spirit, as energy, without the human body, because we're trapped here in this physical plane, but as a spirit, the theory goes, you can go and do whatever, pretty much, you're free. So why would you, as a ghost, take the time to just cruise it, as we say here, locally, cruising it, some place to walk around, creeping people out?
Well, there's many theories about this.
Well, there's one way we can learn.
Yes.
We can use the Ouija board. Ouija board.
That sounds like a great product. I might think about getting one.
It's very great. It's very great indeed. I contacted Abe Lincoln. He only had nice things to say.
Really? You did?
Mm-hmm.
Did he have things to say such as yes or okay?
Well, it was very hard because he couldn't tell me it was Abe Lincoln. I'm pretty sure it was. It took me like 5 hours to figure it out. I think I got it.
Did you ask questions like, are you known for wearing a hat? And then it goes to yes. And then you have to go, are you known for having a beard? And it goes to yes.
That's exactly the two things I asked. That's exactly what I asked.
Sounds about right.
Well, I do hope we do speak more about wrestling in the future. We can go beyond the paranormal.
I'm not sure if people want to hear more about wrestling. I'm afraid we might be covering too much wrestling and not enough paranormal. Who's going to talk about the Popelic Monster, for example?
Oh, have you covered that yet? Or do you want to do that next time?
I'm planning to cover that later.
Okay. Well, I have a few topics also that I want to discuss in future episodes.
The audience should leave some feedback and say, do you want to hear more about wrestling or do you want to hear about the Popelic Monster?
Folks, do you want to hear more about wrestling or the Popelic Monster or other various supernatural topics?
Sure, other monsters too, and not just the Popelic Monster.
Or, I mean, of course, they're tuned in now. I'm sure people are tuned in because they want to hear supernatural stories. That's obvious. So maybe the real question is, if you don't want to hear, or if you do want to hear more wrestling, please leave a comment down below this video, or leave us a message on the Facebook.
Or if you want to hear about, tell us what you want to hear about. Either the Popelic Monster, or other monsters such as the vegetable lamb of Tartary.
Did you just make that up?
No, I didn't. This is an actual cryptozoological monster.
I'm rather familiar with...
It's a lamb that grows out of a plant. That's normal. And it walks around the plant in a circle.
In a circle. I've never heard of this before. Now, I'm an amateurish cryptozoologist man.
Yes.
And I've never heard of that one before.
Well, it's not as famous as the Popelic Monster.
I've never heard of that either until you mentioned it. Now, the Popelic Monster isn't really a monster that licks the Pope.
You know, I'm going to explain that in a new video feature where I'm going to talk about...
Oh, explain your new feature here.
I'm going to talk about the top humanoid North American non-Bigfoot cryptids. And among them is a Popelic Monster.
Folks, we have a new segment on the show. Well, not really a segment. It's a spin-off show. Would you call it that?
Yes, I would.
Now,
it's going to be Doom Business in a new form.
Right. So, it's not a radio show, but it's Doom Business animated, where you would see animations that go along with your descriptions.
That's right. It's a Doomimation, if you will.
Will you call it that?
No.
Oh, I kind of like that. But how would you title it to differentiate between this show and that show?
I would call it...
If not Doomination.
I would call it advanced CGI rendering technology that I would use to show what these monsters look like.
But what would the show be called, though?
I think it would be called Do Business Presents.
Presents.
Advanced Cryptozoological Computer-Generated Imagery.
Now, folks, if you like that title, let us know below in the comments. But if you like Doomination, let us know also. You have my vote in for Doomination. I'm telling you, that's gold.
Actually, it should be Doomimation, right?
Sounds a little too close to Doomy. Mation. Nonetheless, it sounds exciting. He did ask my permission, and I'm grateful for that.
I'll be working on it.
And I gave him the go-ahead because he's been here many times on the show, so I trust him.
The way it works is I have a computer, and I input all the information about each monster, such as the Popelik monster or the Loveland frog.
So you just feed it into the computer?
I give it all the data, and it spits out a computer-generated image of what the monster looks like, and that's what I'll show you in this new video.
Technology nowadays is so high quality. I can't wait to see these pictures.
I can't wait to see it either, because you see, I don't know what it looks like yet because it didn't come out of the computer yet.
Maybe we should do it. Oh wait, no, this is a different show. I was gonna say do it in real time with me there, like on the show, and we can look at it. But this is a different show. This is Doom Business Presents Doomimation, or whatever it's gonna be called. When is it gonna air, you think?
2013. Sometime.
Anything? No date?
I don't have a date yet. But subscribe to this channel and you'll find it. If you're watching this on YouTube, if, however, you're listening to us on AM radio, then look us up on YouTube.
Yes. Or, better if you friend us on the Facebook, and then you'll just get updates on everything. But, my suggestion is, on your homepage, on your Facebook news feed,
yes,
on your feed, mute all of your friends so they don't interrupt our message, our update.
Yeah,
because it gets drowned out with all the other updates. What you can do is go to your friend's page, hover your mouse over the check friends option, because it says that your friends. So
you mentioned this before, I believe.
Hover your mouse over that, and you'll get a drop list. And there's an option that says, it's something along the lines of erase from newsfeed. So anything that they like or say will not appear in your newsfeed. Because if you don't do that, all the other things that you want to be informed about will be drowned out, pushed down by all these other feeds.
And you'll be depressed by just seeing the kinds of things your friends talk about.
I've muted the news feeds of, I would say, 99% of all my friends.
And you only have 50 friends, so that means you only have one half of a friend left.
Thank you for reminding me. This is my new life right now. No more staying underground. Time to go up into the outworld, into the breather world.
Oh, Outland, of course.
The breathers. Make friends with the breathers.
Head to the nether realm.
No,
in the outworld.
That sounds perverted. This is a G-rated show. I want to keep the language strict. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed today's show. I know I sure did, because I love wrestling, especially old school wrestling. Well, before we go, I have a personal question to ask Christian here. Recently, I was watching the latest Indiana Jones film. Crystal Skulls.
This sounds pretty personal.
And there is a part where Indiana Jones is being interrogated by the feds or somebody.
Yes.
And he says the word... Now, I don't even know if I'm saying it right, but this is the question. How do you say... What is the proper way to say this word? I'm pretty sure I'm going to say it wrong right now. Nuclear.
Oh, I see, yes.
It's been bugging me for the past couple of weeks.
Nuclear. Nuclear?
C-L-E-A-R.
Now, other people say it in other ways.
He said it nuclear.
Of course, there's nuclear.
I think that's how he said it. Like, it was in a weird way.
Well,
Nuclear.
We may never know the answer to this until we look it up in the library.
I see what you did there. Until next time, folks, this has been Doom Business.
Batman tries to steal my gold, drink my beers and shoot my lady. Batman tries to steal my gold, whip out my shotgun and make me gravy.
And that was Doom Business, your weekly dose of the paranormal. The time is now 1:30 a.m. Hey kids, you like basketball? Well, how about exercising your brain instead? Stay tuned for Hip Mozart with Shades McFadden, spelled F-A-T-T-E-N.
Kill my liver.